The arena of beasts. The sky above the arena glowed, dark red like burning iron. Thick black clouds hovered around the metal towers, and sharp beams of light moved slowly across the crowd. Thousands of alien voices roared from the stone seats, hungry for blood and violence. The noise shook the ground like thunder, but the man in the center stood still. His face was calm. His hands were tied behind his back with metal bands that pressed against his skin. His clothes were torn. His boots were heavy with dust. His body was marked with old wounds and bruises, but his eyes held fire. He was a human. His name was Mark. The arena was a circle of crushed bones and sand. Long spikes stood along the edge. High walls surrounded it from all sides. At the very top, in a raised throne made of black stone, sat the warlord Krull. He was tall and wide, covered in thick armor made of dark metal and glowing green lines. His face was hidden behind a mask that looked like a skull. Beside him stood a creature chained to the ground. It was huge, taller than 4 men, with silver scales, 6 legs, and jaws that dripped with thick green saliva. Its eyes glowed like fire. Its breath came out like steam. Krull rose from his seat. The crowd fell silent. He lifted one arm and spoke in a voice that echoed across the arena like a growl from deep underground. He said these words slowly with pride and pleasure. Say goodbye, human. My pet has not eaten in days. The crowd screamed with joy. The chains on the beast snapped loose. The gates opened with a grinding noise. The creature stepped forward. The ground shook under its weight. Its claws dug deep into the dirt. Its nose sniffed the air, and its mouth opened wide. The sound it made was low and deep like a drumbeat before War. Mark did not move. He stared at the creature with calm eyes. The guards at the side of the arena laughed and shouted. One of them threw a weapon at his feet. It was a long metal spear, heavy and old. A test, a joke, a game for the crowd. The guards thought it would not matter. The beast was too fast, too strong, too hungry. Mark dropped to one knee and grabbed the spear with both hands. The crowd watched in silence now. They had seen humans beg. They had seen humans cry. They had never seen one do this. The beast rushed forward. Its legs pounded the ground. Its jaws opened wide. Mark stepped to the side just in time. The creature missed him by inches. The heat from its breath burned his arm. The beast turned quickly and came again, faster than before. Mark moved again. The spear scratched the creature's leg. A small cut. The crowd gasped. It was not supposed to happen, not this early. Not. From a human. Krull leaned forward on his throne. His eyes narrowed behind the mask. This was no normal slave. This was no weak prisoner. This one had seen war. This one had survived fire. This one was dangerous. Mark kept moving. He did not strike wild. He watched the way the creature walked. He watched how it turned, how its legs moved, how its eyes followed him. Every small detail mattered. He counted the seconds between each breath. He listened to the sound of its claws on the sand. He waited. The beast attacked again. This time it was faster, smarter. It faked a charge, then leaped sideways. It almost caught him. Its claw ripped the side of his leg. Blood came out quickly. Mark rolled on the ground. He stood back up and pressed the spear into the sand for balance. Pain ran through his body. His legs shook. But his mind stayed clear. Smiled. The creature charged again. Mark moved left, then turned right. He drove the spear deep into the side of its front leg. The metal bent, but held. The beast howled. The sound made the crowd rise to their feet. The smell of blood reached their noses. It was real now. The fight was not a show anymore. It was survival. Krull stood. His claws tapped the arm of the throne. This was not how the fight was meant to go. His pet had crushed fighters from 10 worlds. No one had lasted this long. Number 1 had made it bleed. Mark circled the beast slowly. He limped but moved with purpose. The spear was still in his hands. His eyes never left the creature. The pain in his leg faded into the background. The heat of the arena no longer mattered. The sound of the crowd was far away now. All he saw was the beast. All he heard was its breathing. This was not just a fight. It was something else, something older. The memory of flames filled his mind, the sound of his home falling, the screams of people he loved, the face of Crawl on a screen while ships burned the sky. Rage burned inside him, but did not blind him. It made him sharp, focused. The beast rushed again. Mark did not move this time. He waited until the last second, then dropped to the ground and rolled under it. The spear slashed across the creature's belly. Flesh opened. Blood sprayed the sand. The beast stumbled forward and fell to one knee. The crowd was silent now. Even the guards looked unsure. Mark stood slowly. His chest rose and fell. His arms trembled. The spear was cracked but still usable. The beast growled and turned toward him. Its eyes were wild with pain, with hunger, but also with fear. Mark looked up toward the throne. Toward Crawl, the warlord. Did not speak. His face did not move. But his hand gripped the arm of the chair with force. The human was still alive. The human had wounded the beast. The human was not prey. Not anymore. The first strike, the creature pulled back, dragging its bleeding leg across the rough ground. It snarled and lowered its head, staring at the human with burning eyes. The sand around its body turned dark red. Its chest rose and fell in heavy breaths. Mark stood still with the broken spear in both hands. His leg shook. His side burned. His face was pale, but his eyes held no fear. He did not blink. He did not step back. He watched the beast like a hunter watches wounded prey. The crowd above did not scream now. They sat frozen in their seats. Some leaned forward. Some whispered in low voices. The arena had seen many deaths. None like this. None where a human stood longer than a minute. None where a human made the monster bleed. This was something new. This was something they could not explain. Mark moved slowly. Each step pressed fire into his leg, but he kept going. His mind focused on the beast. He did not care for the noise or the smell or the pain. He remembered training. Long days in empty halls. Fights against machines with metal arms. Tests that broke bones. Missions where silence was the only rule. He remembered being told that death waits for the weak. He remembered his unit. Brave voices, strong hearts, lost faces. He took a deep breath. The beast roared again and charged forward with fresh rage. Its legs pushed hard against the ground. Its jaws opened wide. Mark dropped to one knee and rolled to the side, leaving the broken spear on the ground. The creature passed him and slammed into the wall with a crash. A cloud of dust rose into the air. Mark ran toward the wall. His eyes caught sight of something half buried in the sand. A sharp piece of armor from a fallen warrior. He grabbed it and turned just as the beast shook off the dust and came again. This time its eyes showed more than hunger. There was something else. It was confusion, fear, maybe even respect. Mark held the metal like a blade. It was rough and heavy, but sharp enough to do what he needed. He did not wait. He charged toward the beast. The crowd gasped. It was the first time they had seen a human run toward the creature instead of away. Mark slid under the beast's front legs and slashed. Across its chest, the blade cut deep. Blood sprayed the ground. The beast howled in pain. Crawl stood from his throne. His arms tightened at his sides. His voice was low but filled with fire. His guards turned to him. One stepped forward to speak, but Crawl raised a hand. Not yet. He wanted to see how far the human could go. He wanted to see the last breath leave the man's body with his own eyes. The idea of losing control in front of his people burned his pride, but his hate burned hotter. Mark backed away. His arm was soaked in the beast's blood. His heart pounded like a hammer. His lungs begged for air. Still, he did not fall. He watched the creature stumble. Its legs no longer moved the same. Its steps were slower. Its head hung lower. Mark could see the weakness now. He could feel the shift in power. The beast was dying. But then the beast did something strange. It stopped. It stared at him without moving. Its body shook. Its mouth closed. Its growl faded. Mark stared back. He could see something behind those eyes. Not just pain. Not just anger. It was something deeper. The beast looked tired, alone, caged for years, forced to fight. Used as a weapon for a warlord's pride. Mark saw what others could not. This creature was no monster. It was a prisoner too. Mark lowered his blade. The crowd started to yell, confused, angry. They wanted more blood. They wanted a final strike. Mark did not give it to them. He took a step closer to the beast. His hand reached out slowly. The beast watched with still eyes. For a second, it did not move. For a second, the air between them was quiet, calm. Then, a loud noise shook the arena. A blast came from the gate. 2 guards entered with weapons drawn. Crawl had waited long enough. His patience was over. He did not want mercy. He did not want peace. He wanted a kill. His voice thundered across the arena like a storm. End him now. The beast growled again. Its body tensed. Mark stepped back and lifted his blade. The spell between them was broken. Trust could not live here. Not in this place. Not under that voice. The beast charged with the last of its strength. Mark ran toward it with his blade raised high. They clashed in the center of the arena. Claws met steel. Flesh met fury. Dust rose. Blood flew. The noise of the crowd returned like a wave. When the dust cleared, the beast stood shaking. A long wound across its side poured blood. Mark stood a few steps away. His blade was gone. His body leaned forward. Blood dripped from his mouth, but he did not fall. He kept standing. The beast turned its head toward him again. Their eyes met one last time. The creature dropped to the ground with a loud thud. It did not move again. Mark turned toward the throne. His chest rose and fell in pain. His mouth opened. His voice was low but strong. I am still here. The arena froze. No one moved. No one spoke. Even Crawl stood silent. His pet was dead. The human lived. Mark's blood stained the ground, but his spirit stood tall. This was more than survival. This was a message. One that echoed across the stars. A message written in blood and courage. The first strike had been made. The war had not begun yet. But it was coming. What they did to Earth, the sky above the arena darkened further. The crowd remained in silence. Not a single voice rose. Not a single hand clapped. The beast lay cold on the ground, its body still and broken. Mark stood not far, blood running down his leg and side, chest rising and falling with effort. Dust stuck to the sweat on his skin, his fists clenched. His eyes burned with something deeper than anger. It was memory, it was pain. It was a fire that had waited too long to rise. Across the high walls, alien guards moved closer to the edge. Some had weapons pointed. Some spoke into small devices, others simply stared. No one expected this. No one could understand how a single man, worn and wounded, had done the unthinkable. One guard whispered a question, asking if the human was using forbidden tech. Another suggested the beast had grown weak from hunger. None of them wanted to admit the truth. The human had won with skill, with heart, with a will they could not. Crawl sat frozen on his throne. His mask hid his face, but his silence showed more than words ever could. His pet, the pride of his world, had fallen before a man. A simple human. One he had brought out only to amuse the crowd. one he had mocked with open threats, one he had starved. Chained, beaten, yet still, that same man had killed the beast and stood alive. Mark's breath slowed. His thoughts drifted. The noise of the crowd vanished from his ears. The heat of the arena faded from his skin. His mind went far away. Back to Earth, back to the day when everything ended. He remembered the sky turning black, not from clouds, from ships. Thousands of them, alien vessels, huge and silent, blocking out the sun. People ran in the streets. Sirens screamed. His mother held his little sister close. Soldiers ran past with weapons that looked too small for the war to come. Then the ground shook. Fires rose, the air filled with dust and screams. Tall machines dropped from the sky. Cities fell within hours. Entire nations vanished under the weight of alien machines. Krall's voice played on screens across the planet. A message of power. A warning to other worlds. Earth was not just invaded. It was used, broken, burned as an example. Mark had survived that day. Not by chance, not by hiding. He had fought. He had gathered others. He had seen what was done to his people. He had lost friends. He had buried family. He had promised himself that one day he would stand face to face with the one who did this. He had sworn to carry the rage of a dead world in his bones until that day came. Now he was here, inside Krall's stronghold, alive, and the warlord's beast was dead. The crowd began to stir again. A slow wave of noise moved through the seats. Some laughed. Some cursed. A few even cheered. It was a strange sound, unfamiliar, like something long forgotten, the sound of respect, not for power, not for blood, but for courage. Krall stood. His voice roared across the arena. He spoke in his native tongue, but the words carried anger. Guards moved fast. The gates opened again. 10 soldiers entered with metal staffs that crackled with light. They walked toward Mark without fear. They thought he was broken. They thought he was easy prey now. They had not seen his mind. They had not seen what he had been through. Mark looked up. His eyes met theirs. He picked up a piece of the broken spear. The tip was sharp, jagged, not much, but enough. He held it like it was part of him. His heart beat slow but steady. His muscles burned, but his stance stayed strong. One soldier charged forward, raising the staff. Mark moved sideways and slammed the sharp metal into the soldier's side. The armor cracked. The soldier fell. Another came. Mark turned, used the body of the first one as cover, and threw the weapon into the second's neck. Blood sprayed across the sand. The crowd gasped. This was no longer a beast fight. This was something else. A storm. A spark that refused to die. 2. More soldiers rushed him. Mark grabbed the second staff from the ground and swung it in a wide arc. The blast from the weapon knocked one soldier off balance. Mark turned, blocked a strike from the other, and drove his elbow into the attacker's face. The helmet cracked. The soldier collapsed. The last guards hesitated. They had numbers. They had better weapons. But their eyes showed fear. They had seen something they could not explain. A man who should have died, still fighting with hands cut. Open and blood pouring from his wounds. Krall shouted again. His voice was sharp, angry. The guards moved back. The gates closed. The fight was stopped. Mark stood in the center of the arena again, surrounded by bodies, covered in blood, holding a weapon taken from the enemy. His breath came hard. His body leaned forward. But he remained standing. Above him, the crowd watched with strange eyes. Eyes that saw something they did not expect. Something they had not seen in many years. A challenger. A survivor. A warrior from a world they believed was already lost. In a dark corner of the stands, someone whispered that the human spirit had not died. Someone else said they remembered stories of Earth warriors who never gave up, Another voice asked if this human was alone, or if others like him still lived. The idea moved through the arena like a current. Quiet but strong. Mark looked up at the throne again. His voice came out rough, worn, but every word hit like stone. You took everything from us. You turned our world into ash. You thought we would forget. But we are not done, not yet. The arena went quiet once more. Even Crawl said nothing. His hands tightened. On the arms of his throne, his pride had been cut. His mask could not hide the truth anymore. The human had won more than a fight. He had won fear. He had won respect. And somewhere deep in the empire, a spark of rebellion began to glow. Rise of the human. The sky over the alien city pulsed with red lights as the sun dipped behind jagged towers. Shadows stretched across the arena walls while inside, the air held weight like a storm waiting to break. Mark stood surrounded by silence. Around him lay soldiers broken and bleeding. The once proud beast was now a quiet figure in the dust. Mark's hands gripped the cracked staff. His breath came in slow gasps. Pain filled his body, but something stronger held him upright. It was not pride. It was not victory. It was purpose. From his throne above, Crawl stared without moving. His mask reflected the dying light. Behind that cold face was fire. The crowd watched every twitch of his fingers. They had seen him crush empires. They had seen him tear leaders apart. But this moment felt different. He was not roaring. He was not laughing. He was quiet. Like something inside had been struck. Below the arena, deep inside the stone floors, cages rattled. Human prisoners locked in cells heard the noise from above. They had waited in darkness for days, for weeks, some for years. They knew the sounds of the arena too well, the roar of beasts, the cheer of aliens, the silence after death. But today the noise was strange. Short bursts of fighting. Screams not from humans. Then silence again. They waited. Eyes lifted toward the ceiling. Ears straining. Then one voice broke the stillness. "He's alive." Another voice followed. Then another. Words spread like sparks. The human from Earth. The fighter. The survivor. The one they called Mark. He had killed the beast. He had fought the guards. And he was still standing. Some prisoners gripped the bars. Others fell to their knees, not in fear, in hope. Something they had forgotten. Something they buried long ago. One man closed his eyes and whispered a name. Not Mark's, but the name of his lost brother. Then he stood up. Others followed. Above, Mark turned slowly. His legs weak, his arms bruised, but his eyes sharp. He looked toward the gates. He looked toward the towers. He could hear it now, the sound rising from beneath. Not screams, not cries, but chants, rhythms, beats of fists on metal bars. Hope had become a voice. Crawl snapped out of silence. He turned to his commanders. He gave orders in fast tones. Shut the cells, seal the exits, kill the prisoners if needed. Order must return. Fear must return. His voice was louder now, but his words held less power. The crowd was not cheering. The soldiers hesitated. Some even looked away. They had seen the beast fall. They had seen a man stand tall. They had seen something pure. Mark limped toward the center of the arena. His body screamed with every step, but he moved without pause. He raised the broken staff and drove it into the sand. He looked up at the throne. He did not speak. He only stared. And that stare was louder than any words. From the gates, more soldiers appeared, heavily armed, marching in rows. They stepped into the arena with sharp movements. Shields raised, blasters pointed. They circled Mark from all sides. Mark took a deep breath. He reached for the blade he had hidden in the torn cloth tied around his waist. It was not much, a sliver of metal. But it would do. The first soldier moved forward. Mark stepped sideways and brought the blade upward into the attacker's neck. One motion. Fast. Clean. The soldier dropped. The others charged. Mark fought like a storm, like a flame with wind behind it. He dodged. He struck. He rolled under strikes and kicked dust into eyes. They hit him. They slammed him with heavy arms, but he refused to fall. Each movement was driven by memory. By fire, by the faces he had lost. Suddenly, a loud blast came from the arena wall. The stone cracked, dust flew. A group of prisoners broke through, armed with stolen weapons. They had escaped their cages. One of them fired toward the guards. Another threw a shield toward Mark. He caught it and used it to block a strike. Now, he was not alone. The arena turned into chaos. Guards rushed to block the exits. Prisoners flooded in from the lower levels. Screams rose. Blasts rang across the stone. The crowd scattered. Some jumped from their seats. Others ran for safety. Crawl stood from his throne and gave new orders. Kill them all. Burn the arena if needed. Let nothing survive. But the tide had turned. For too long, the Empire had ruled with fear. For too long, humans were treated like insects. That time had ended. Mark fought his way to the edge of the arena. One prisoner handed him a rifle. He took it without a word and fired into a control tower. The glass shattered. Sparks flew. More explosions followed as the rebels pushed forward. Some aliens joined them. Not all were loyal to Crawl. Some had felt the same pain. Some had lost families to the same wars. From high above, Crawl watched his empire crack. He saw the arena burn. He saw the beast's blood mix with the dust. He saw the human lift a fallen banner and raise it high. A piece of red cloth marked with Earth's old emblem. Faded but not forgotten. Mark looked up one last time. His voice was rough. His face was covered in ash. But his words came clear. This is for Earth. This is for all of us. No more cages, no more chains, no more silence. The rebels shouted in answer. Their voices shook the sky. Crawl turned and left the throne room. He vanished into the dark halls of his fortress. But he knew something had changed. The fire had spread. The rebellion had begun. And the name of one human would echo across stars. Mark, the man who rose when no one else could. The man who fought when no hope remained. The man who made an empire tremble. The beast as a master smoke rose from the heart of the alien city. Flames danced across tall towers where banners of the empire once flew. Screams echoed through broken streets. The air was thick with dust and fire. A place once ruled by fear had turned into a battlefield. The sound of rebellion spread like thunder. Across the star screens of distant colonies, images of humans fighting back reached ears that had long forgotten the word hope. The one leading them was the same man who stood alone in the arena only hours ago. He had no throne. He wore no armor. But every voice now whispered his name with respect. Mark. Inside the main fortress, Crawl walked with fast steps through long metal corridors. His cloak dragged behind him like a trail of shadows. Guards followed, silent and unsure. Their leader's mask was cracked. One eye no longer glowed. The warlord who had once made whole worlds bow with a single word now moved. Like a cornered beast. His empire was burning. His fear was rising. Not because he had lost control, but because he had lost belief. The crowd no longer cheered for him. His soldiers no longer fought with fire. His pet was gone. And the humans still lived. In the control chamber, Crawl gave orders to destroy all rebel cells in the outer sectors. Commanders responded with broken signals. Systems were down. Ships were stolen. Supply routes cut off. Mark's rebellion had grown faster than any had expected. He had not just escaped. He had taken control of weapons, opened prisons, called out to other worlds. The voice of Earth now echoed across the void. Mark stood near the ruins of the arena gate. His clothes were torn, his arms wrapped in bandages. Around him stood those who had escaped the cages below. Some were human, some from distant planets. They were soldiers now, fighters with no flags but one purpose: the fall of Krull. Mark did not speak often. He gave short orders, pointed toward goals, set traps, planned movements. His eyes told enough. His pain became fuel. His silence became strength. One of the rebels brought news of Krull's location. The inner fortress was still guarded, but the path was clear. Mark nodded once. He gathered a small group. No army, only a few trusted warriors. Fast, focused. This fight was not about numbers. It was about ending something that should have ended long ago. They moved through smoke and fire, slipped past broken defense towers, crossed paths filled with ash. The city felt like it was holding its breath, watching, waiting, not knowing what would come next. As they reached the last door before the throne hall, Mark stopped. He looked at the steel frame. His hand touched the wall. Memories returned. Again, Earth's final days, his family, the promise he had made to himself. He breathed deep once, then stepped forward. The doors opened with a long hiss. The hall inside was wide, cold, empty. At the far end stood Krull, alone. No guards, no weapons in hand. Only the weight of failure on his shoulders. Mark walked slowly. His boots echoed with each step. The others stayed behind. This was not their fight. This was between two forces that had met long ago. One full of pride, one full of pain. Krull lifted his head. His voice cracked. So you finally came. Mark said nothing. He kept walking. Krull pointed a finger toward him. You think this changes everything? Mark kept moving. Krull took a step back. His voice rose. I destroyed your world. I crushed your people. You should fear me. Mark reached the steps of the throne. He stopped. His eyes looked straight into Krull's. You are nothing now. Those words were calm. No shout, no anger, just truth. Clear as glass. Krull raised his hand. A hidden blade sprang from his wrist. He rushed forward. Mark dodged fast, grabbed the arm, twisted it, broke it. The blade fell. Krull screamed. Mark threw him to the floor. No weapon needed, just force. Just will. The others entered the hall. They saw the warlord lying on the cold ground. No power, no pride, no commands. Mark looked around the hall. He saw the giant symbol of the Empire on the wall. He picked up a fallen banner from the floor. It was red with Earth's old emblem. He walked to the center and raised it high. The rebels cheered. The walls shook with the sound of freedom. Krull was taken to the prison where humans once screamed. No chains on Mark's hands now, no whip in any guard's grip. The fortress was theirs. Messages were sent across the system. The warlord had fallen. The rebellion had won. The human who once stood alone had become the fire that burned the empire. Down. In the days that followed, ships filled with freed slaves flew back to broken homes. Ruins became shelters. Dust-covered flags were raised again. Names of the lost were spoken with pride. Songs were written about the man who fought the beast and made fear bleed. Mark did not sit on a throne. He did not call himself king or leader. He walked the streets with others, rebuilt with bare hands. Spoke little, helped much. Some asked why he never celebrated, why he never smiled. He said freedom is not a gift. It is a fight that never ends. And when people forgot how dark those days had been, they looked up at the sky where old towers once stood and remembered a man covered in blood standing over a fallen beast, holding nothing but a broken weapon and an unbroken heart. That was enough to keep hope alive. The Empire had a beast, but Earth had a man, and in the end, the beast had to master the end.